don't want to do this! I've changed my mind. Let me take you on a journey all the way back in time to early 2022. The date is February 28th, and Gamefreak has just released a brand new announcement trailer for the latest Pokemon games. This trailer had everything! A security guard, the Gamefreak logo very fittingly failing to function properly, promises of wide open areas, Pokemon littering the overworld like in Legends Arceus, 3 FPS windmills, Starly's stupid ass face, amazing graphics. Don't worry everybody, game footage not final. We even got to see the brand new starter Pokemon, one of whom's had their eyes slapped on like some sort of horrible party game.
Others.
And last but not least, we even got to see the brand spanking new logos. Maybe least after all. Moly holy, these are ugly! Even the Japanese versions weren't saved from Scarlet and Violet's overwhelming blandness. Look at this! This is one of the first things people are gonna see when picking up your game, Gamefreak. And you want it to be this? Sure, just let the intern mock him up. 5 minutes in Photoshop, that's all you need. I can make a better logo with my eyes closed. I didn't make this. The trading card game has their own logos, which look a million times better. Genuinely don't know what happened here. Did they fire their only graphic designer? I mean, trailer after trailer released, one after the other, showing off new Pokemon, more of the region, and even...
Today, we begin the treasure hunt.
Voice acting!
Travel across Paldea. Get to know the region.
Bad voice acting. Why does this old-ass man sound like a 30-year-old? But hey, at least they're finally... oh. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, to be honest.
The rich culture.
Why'd they record this on a PlayStation controller?
That's none of your business.
The final trailer popped up on YouTube right on top of the release dates of the games, which showed off just how much the game had improved in those long, long 9 months. Ugh.
Where will you go?
I'm going to, kill myself.
What will you achieve?
The backpack here's got more detail on it than the entirety of the overworld. What is this? Anyway, I obviously bought the game because I'm a brain-dead fan who eats up anything with Pikachu's pudgy face in it. Now, why don't we take a little look-see at the box art? Why, it's the bare minimum! What does every Pokemon box art have? The logo and the legendary Pokemon, maybe a fancy background. I don't like it! Pokemon box art is where creativity goes to die, but hey, each box at least tries to do its own thing. Pearl and Diamond has a shiny gloss on the paper, making it stick out a bit. Black and White had the whole contrast thing going for it. X and Y had the letter background. But after that, they all just started kind of blending together. I will say Scarlet's cover is better than Shield's, but I mean, a turd with sprinkles is still a turd. Taking a look at the back. Wow, that's not much. What, you got 9 words and a couple of pictures here? Look at all that blank space down there. What do you think, people are just gonna buy the game because it's got the Pokemon branding? They would never. Well, might as well bite the bullet and get this video underway. It's been long enough putting it off. At the very least, I bought it physically, so I don't have to worry about downloading anything. We all knew it was coming. Now, I want you to know that I recorded all of this footage right on the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, like right as it came out, so I won't be mentioning any of the DLC until much later on. I've decided, unlike the Sword and Shield video, I will probably be looking at the DLC after I finish the main story, and also what changes between this version and the updated version, so just keep that in mind as we go through. And here we go! Pokemon Scarlet, everybody! Any moment now. Pokemon Scarlet. Oh, I think they sent me the wrong game. This is Pokemon Gray! Now, as much as the little voice inside my head's telling me to pick Italiano, I think it'd be best for everybody if we go with English. But it'd be real funny. After the language selection, we're once again introduced to our character options. Or in other words, hey, you want to be white, tan, or black with the face of a white guy? How lazy do you have to be to not change anything since X and freaking Y? Moly holy hair selection, character customization! I very much so enjoyed going through the options here. There's a ton of hair choices with a crap load of colors. So many I don't know why they didn't just include a color wheel. I say that every time. Something to look forward to in Generation 18, I guess. And for the first time ever, In Pokemon history, we can customize our facial features. Eyes, eyelashes, eyebrows, mouth shape, freckles. I was genuinely so happy to see this here. Not the freckles, who gives a shit, just the customization itself. It's one of the coolest things about the game. I will say the cutscenes are a heck of a lot better when your character doesn't look like a reanimated corpse. I decided on a whim to create a brand new character, Mr. Soderbergh. Can't forget to add the beauty spot, just like our favorite gaming sex icon, Mr. Bean. And there it is, our enrollment application at Naranja Academy, or as some pronounce it, cute little desk here. Pokemon scissors, Pokeball eraser. It makes me wonder what the real world equivalent of Pokeballs are. Like, what's something that we have that, like, the Pokemon world doesn't, that's, like, in everything? Microplastics, maybe. Huh, enrollment complete. It sounds a heck of a lot easier than getting accepted into a school in real life. And then again, my animation school let pretty much anyone in as long as you had the money. Welcome to animation school, Mr. Soderbergh. Have a look around, why don't you? I'm sad to say that that's a true story.
Naranja Academy, taking lesson from tradition, growing stronger and greater. Home to the funky camera transition. Lessons in shadowmancy and 3 FPS animation. We have it all. Hello there, I'm Director Clavel, head of Naranja Academy. Paldea is a sprawling region bursting with lush nature and magnificent landscapes. It is also, of course, home to the mysterious creatures known to us as Pokémon. They reside here in great numbers, in fact. Pokémon can be found living all over, in the seas, in the skies, in your house. We humans coexist with Pokémon, as we both help one another to live and thrive. Naranja Academy is here to help you Look at that guy's hair! Within our halls, people from all regions gather to study together. Also, we've learned to control the flow of time itself. I've locked these two in the Tsukuyomi Genjutsu for 1,000 years. Our patent-pending transforming school is all the rage, so come on down today. We, the faculty and staff at Naranja Academy, can't wait to welcome you with open arms. Quite literally.
Wow. Now that was a neat little promotional video there. I especially like the part where nothing worked properly and they rushed the game out in 3 days. Watch this, another cutscene. Oh, you spoil me, Gamefreak. Oh, and this one includes drifting birds. Even though this cutscene of the box legendary flying through the air is very obviously pre-rendered, Gamefreak didn't take this opportunity to lie to us. Everything's just like in-game. The popping in grass, the popping in trees, the popping in black voids. It's all here. Eventually, the Pokemon lands in the sea near a little beach, and I didn't think I'd be excited to see what water looks like in a game, but Legends Arceus and its paint-like liquids had me a little worried, so yay! Real water! Ah! It's the first Pokemon to be featured in RadicalSoda's amazing Pokemon evaluation! And it's gross! This is a little segment where we'll go through each new Pokemon design as we see them throughout the game, so I can give my thoughts on them. If you've seen the Sword and Shield video, this is the same sort of thing, but higher quality. Ooh. And as this little guy, Squawkabilly, has reared his ugly mug onto the screen first, we'll start with him. I feel like you might be able to, guess my thoughts on him. Despite the cool idea of multicolored parrot forms and the feathers doubling as a delinquent coat, Squawkabilly just looks kinda stupid. The way he looks now, it kinda seems like Gamefreak forgot to change the base body model when his wings are out, so if you get rid of him, he kinda looks like he's waiting in line for the next Call of Duty at EB Games. Shout out to EB Games, by the way, overpriced as shit. Oh, that must be my house. Whose skeleton is this? My lord, look at this room! Where's the ceiling? Are my parents giants? Oh no, they're just hot as shit. Get up. No thanks. If I never get up, I'll never have to sharp my way through this game. I'll live my life in peace right here, thank you very much. Ah, this is the life. Beautiful, relaxing music drifting through my eardrums. I've got a new Switch OLED on my drawer. My bright and cherry Pokemon stickers are hanging out together on the wardrobe. My bottom sitting almost all the way off my chest. Strongest ass in the West. Well, probably time to get going. I will say this house looks absolutely beautiful. Don't mind the frame rate dips. That's just my mother loading in downstairs. Check out my 2 records, one of which looks suspiciously like Peter Griffin. Whoa, looks like a squirrel got in the house again. Before too long, Director Clavel barges in the house without a second thought. I guess he had a search warrant.
You are Mr. Soderbergh, yes?
Ah, you can just call me Fluid. Gender fluid. While Mum and Director Clavel sit down on the couches right at the edge, I guess it's a cultural thing, I head back upstairs to get my hat and bag, 2 things required to start my Pokemon adventure. I also went through the options to see what's available, and there's quite a few new ones. Color me surprised, because, I expected the bare minimum. You can even adjust the volume of sound effects, music, and Pokemon cries. Now that I think about it, that might be the bare minimum. Of course, these cool new options must take up a lot of gigabytes because it looks like Gamefreak had to take away some stuff in order for them to fit in. That being the Switch Set mode, which makes me incredibly angry. What the funk were they smoking making this decision? Getting rid of an option that doesn't even affect the XP values or anything even semi-complicated, it's still an effect on online battles. What on earth were they doing here? If you don't already know, Switch mode lets you swap out your Pokemon each time you knock out an opposing trainer's Pokemon. Generally, how most people play the game, and that's fine. Set mode, however, mimics the way online battles play by not letting you swap your Pokemon out each time you knock the opposing one out, meaning both trainers, you and the AI, are playing by the same rules. Simple as that. So I'll ask again, why is it gone? It's in the game, in the online matches, so why can't I choose to use it in the regular gameplay? And yes, I can just choose every time to not switch out. The option is there. I'm not forced to take the free switch. But that little menu, that little option, the time it takes adds up. And these battles aren't exactly fast, but we'll get to the battles and they're rocket fast pacing, don't you worry. I don't want to hammer on about this for too much longer or turn into an angry video game nerd clone from the early YouTube by saying, what were they thinking? But it really does seem to me that judging from this one decision alone that the game's going to be a giant steaming pile of month-old dog shit covered in diarrhea from a diseased baboon's butthole. Hey, look, a cat! Sprigatito is this region's grass-type starter, and I think it's very cute. I do think it's a little weird that we got 2 cat starters within 2 generations. At least Fuecoco had the decency to wait 7 generations for Totodile to fall into obscurity. And speaking of, Fuecoco is my least favorite out of these 3 starters, but that doesn't mean I don't like him. Aside from the bit of cheese stapled to his chest, I think he's pretty cute too. Quaxley is a little duck with some jelly on its head. It looks like shaving gel, not gonna lie. But I think he's real cute too. Honestly, all 3 of these starters, despite taking some getting used to, like every other starters nowadays, I guess, are some of my favorite starter designs from the last, 4 generations? It's a pretty solid set. I realize I just kind of called them all cute. I mean, but what do you want me to say? Like, they're made to be as appealing as possible to as many people as possible. That's the starter's job, so I think that fairly accurately describes them. The director lets us have a bit of time with the starters to see what they like before we make our decision, although that kind of just ends up being, walking with them for half a minute. Mum hands us... thanks? The Rotom phone from Sword and Shield. Oh, boy! What's with Gamefreak's fascination with cell phones? Even Legends Arceus had a freaking mobile phone.
I've been isekai to the Pokemon universe, but I still have my Apple iPhone.
Hello? I'm here to record a message for you. Is this all because of that one comment Masuda made about how kids can't be bothered to play proper video games nowadays because free mobile games exist? Do they maybe think children won't play the new Pokemon because there's no mobile phones involved? The Rotom phone gives us a little mini-map in the corner of the screen that runs at half the game's frame rate, and that's already not the best. I don't know why it runs so poorly. It's a rotating 2D image. It also can't be locked, meaning you're constantly having to do mental gymnastics to figure out which way you need to be going. 99% of the time I just opened up the big map. It was just easier at the end of the day, and that's not a good thing, seeing as the mini-map is supposed to be the convenient option. It's neat that they let us chill out with the starters this time around. I mean, usually when you're picking a starter Pokemon in these sort of games, it's more like, go, go, go! Pick a Pokemon right now! This man will die! The power science is amazing! If you connect with friends, you can head out on adventures together. Up to 4 of you at a time! Yes, that does sound great, but my friends saw the trailers and canceled their pre-orders. The ocean sure does look beautiful today. No! The paparazzi! They followed me again! Holy moly, whose house is this? Clearly a very experienced Shadow Monsters. After a little cutscene showing off the starters' personalities a little more, we get to meet our neighbor and rival friend, Nemona. I know you don't want to do voice acting, Gamefreak, and that's fine, I get it, I don't care all that much, but then stop making cutscenes that look weird without it! I'm Nemona! Normally I live in the school dorms, but home is here! What do you say, new neighbor? Wanna be friends?
Fuck off!
Maybe I came on a little strong! A little strong? Nemona, you underestimate your own strength! Oh. Clavel mentions Nemona's a champion-ranked trainer, which is essentially Gamefreak retconning what it means to beat the Elite Four in Champion, which is a welcome change, mind you. Now, instead of you becoming the champion when you beat the previous one, it acts more like a League of Legends rank.
I love $500 skins. That's yummy in my tummy.
Hang on a minute, RadicalSoda, you're saying. How can Nemona be our rival when she's already the Paldea region champion? Rank. Well, that's what's interesting, dear viewer. You already know the answer to this question because the game's been out for a long while now, but for those uninitiated, Nemona handicaps herself by refusing to use her old team, instead focusing on a new one she trains up from scratch in order to level the playing field when battling you. This is a really neat idea. I did this exact thing when my friend Neil, he caved into peer pressure to buy the game, went through his story on stream. After every major boss, I was there to battle him with a team around the same level as his. This meant having to train 40 different teams of the same Pokemon at varying levels, but hell, I did it to myself, so who am I to complain? What I'm trying to say is I like Nemona, not for any weird reasons, but just for how she's an interesting idea for a rival. As someone who's so passionate about battling, she'll kneecap herself just to make things more interesting. As you can probably guess, I'm gonna pick Sprigatito here. Oops, that's... I feel like mine is the lesser of the oops here. Did the game just give up? This is real. This is a real full-priced video game by the richest multimedia franchise in the world. Pokemon has so much money, I couldn't fathom the amount, but apparently they can't afford to render shadows. I don't actually know what's happening here to make the shadows disappear. Is it loading in a slightly higher fidelity model of Quaxley here, and is that just too much for the shadows to stick around for? For the life of me, I have no idea. I don't know. I just can't. I don't want to think about this too hard, or else I'm never going to get past it. Anyway, so one Sprigatito later, once the rest of my hair decides to show up, the shadows pack up and leave again. I thought it might have been a one-time glitch when it first happened, but nope, might as well just make it a feature on the back of the box. It could be the third one! Stand up on two legs, and I'm gonna put a bullet between those big glossy eyeballs. And so Bear Grylls, the female Sprigatito, is the first one to join the party. Hello! I'm Bear Grylls, and I'm a cat! Have I neglected to mention that there's been no music playing since I got out of that first cutscene? Some fat guy's peeing in the background. I don't know where he is. It actually makes sense for Nemona here to pick the Pokemon you're strong against. Again, with the kneecaps. I never got why Hop and How did this. How, I guess I can understand thematically. He just picks whatever he wants at the time. You know, free as the wind. But it would have made a lot more sense for Hop to pick the type strong against ours. Would have given his little breakdown halfway through the game a little more rationale, you know. Why do I keep losing to you? I even had the advantage! Fuck! It's time for the very first battle, not including the one constantly going on between the Switch and the game trying not to self-destruct. Nemona's theme is actually quite nice. One thing Pokemon usually does well is music, and this battle theme is no exception. It's very happy, very casual, I guess you could say, but it's still got that, hey, come on, let me see what you got energy. Of course, the battle itself is a bit boring, as you could probably imagine. You start off with a move matching your starter's typing, something I've been doing since, I want to say X and Y, to speed up the first rival fight, so it doesn't just turn into a push tackle 40 times or lose kind of deal. So we slapped Quaxley with a few leaves, and that was that. Suck my balls! I don't think there's much of a point going over the battle system itself. As usual, Gamefreak didn't do anything too crazy with the battle system here. It's essentially just Sword and Shields again, which is just Sun and Moons again, which is just X and Ys again, and so on and so forth until you hit Pearl and Diamond. Fairy typing aside, and while I'm not looking for any huge shakeups in the Pokemon formula, I like turn-based battles, believe it or not. I, however, would expect, well, expect is a bit of a strong word, I would like optimizations, and that is something this game hasn't quite heard of. You spend a heck of a lot of time waiting from a multitude of different things. Even in this very simple starting battle here, the little gaps in time where the game is processing what you've selected or what it needs to do next, and you'll notice longer and longer waiting times as the game goes on. It really starts to build up, but I'm sure I'll mention that once it starts becoming truly egregious, which unfortunately is not that far away. That's that, as we, hi there, would you like some chalky milk? I don't know what on earth goes on behind the scenes for the camera to so vehemently focus on Clavel over there, but I'm a fan. More of him, please. Nemona installs the Pokédex onto our phone with her psychonesis, and it's time for us to finally run free. Nemona tells us to follow her to the Pokemon Academy. Oh, there she goes. Holy shit, she's fast. But before turning the game into Finding Nemo, I checked out Nemona's house, or mansion. Is this what being a champion rank trainer means? Or do Nemona's parents also force their employees to pee into bottles while making deliveries? What the heck is this? A tiny Pokeball smooshed into the floor. I can't interact with it. I don't know what's up with this. Ah, you'll have to forgive me. This can't be a mansion. I seem to have run into a classic fake door. This place is actually just one big room. What's interesting here is that there's some really neat art strung up around the place. A lovely painting of Greninja, some Eevees here. Obviously, there's some very talented artists working on this game. It sucks that you have to look at this one from a terrible angle due to the camera not moving more than 3 inches while inside a building. I had to look at it from a distance to really see anything. And of course, the horrible resolution of the game really doesn't help with the detail. I'd love to see this one properly at some point. Holy crap, it's the amazing Poppin' Man! His superpower, of course, being able to pop in and out of reality at will. Can't forget his sidekick, the incredible Poppin' Girl! I'd be making a much bigger deal out of all this poppin', but thanks to Sonic Frontiers, I know it can get worse. A lot worse. Now that Pokemon's an open world game, it's pretty neat to run around and find little treasures hidden all around. I vastly prefer this to the hallway routes of Sword and Shield, I'll tell you that much. Just kinda hoping the areas going forward are at least interesting to explore and not just open plains of nothing. Final Fantasy XIV has this problem. The early areas before they introduced flying are pretty condensed with lots of different landmarks to make them memorable, especially Gridania here. But once they get to the first expansion and flying was introduced, a lot of areas suddenly became big, seemingly just for the sake of being big, and that's not always better. Even in the Pokemon game that I'm working on, I fell into this sort of trap and had to redesign some of the routes, condense them down to make them more interesting and force less aimless wandering. Poco Path, the first real route of the game, does seem to be doing this well at least. It's a nice little secluded area with a lighthouse and a few cliffs to keep it visually distinct. Nemona doesn't even force a catching tutorial on you, you only just a quick battle against a Lechonk here. I'm sure a few of you might be wondering if I'm doing a Nuzlocke here. I thought about it, but for my initial playthrough at least, it's a no. I wanted to play this as regularly as possible to see what new Pokemon were like. Speaking of new Pokemon, almost skipped down on the Lechonk here. Now, this hammy chunk was shown off early in the Scarlet and Violet promos and quickly became a fan favorite, mainly due to the name, I'd like to think. Didn't catch one for my initial playthrough, but that doesn't mean I don't think it's neat. I think he's a funny little guy, and I really like his shiny. One neat thing Gamefreak did change is now items in the overworld don't stop you dead in your tracks anymore. Instead, you can just grab them as you run over them. Of course, this isn't perfect. There's a lot of times where you'll be running out in the overworld and you see an item coming up in front of you and you mash A to grab it and it still doesn't pick it up. But that's besides the point. It's a neat little change which speeds up the gameplay just a little bit. Now just add stuff like that for the battles. Oh. I see. Pokemon battles are now started up wherever you happen to be, whatever elevation you may or may not be around. The game will always try to find the best spot to send your Pokemon out. So cool! Unfortunately, battles do start up immediately upon touch, just like in Sword and Shield. And despite my less than favorable view I have on Legends Arceus, I do think the direction they took wild battles, what with the wild Pokemon attacking your trainer instead of immediately putting you into a battle, was a lot better. A big problem with the overworld Pokemon in this game is that you can get stuck in a loop running away from a Pokemon and then immediately touch another one and starting up another battle, nothing you can do about it, and then you're stuck in a loop for a while because it takes 40 minutes to do anything in this game. But hey, you can't expect the mechanics from Legends to make an appearance in Scarlet and Violet because apparently they were being worked on at the same time. Jesus, man! As for the wild battle music, it's... inoffensive. It sounds like every other modern wild battle theme. You'll see later on the theme does change depending on the area, but I think this one is sort of the default theme, as it were. We do run into another new Pokemon here, Tarountula, and boy is he cute. One of my absolute favorite designs in the Paldea region, and he goes right into the team. I love the face, the big ball of silk, the way he hangs from trees, and look at that, a Pokemon doing something other than just walking around randomly. Now that's neat. I called him another RadicalSoda staple character, Incredibazinga, or Critibazinga, his brother. You'd think 9 generations in would be able to make names longer than 12 letters long, but who am I to judge? I'm not Gamefreak. I healed up Critibazinga because he was a little low from Bear Grylls' pummeling. Oh hey, a sandwich! What do you mean not the time and place? I'm hungry! I want a sandwich! I've changed my mind! Here's a cute little guy, Pawmi, also shown off in the trailers. Pawmi. Painter, it's Pawmi. Pawmi is this region's Pikachu clone, but for once it's an evolving Pikachu clone. Ooh. The evolutions we'll get to, of course, later on. But for now, I think its design is really cute. I like it. I mean, not too much to say other than that. I just think it's neat. Wandering a little further along, we find a new kind of item in the overworld, what I'm going to call hidden items, usually berries. There are no berry trees in this game, so yeah, I guess they didn't want another plastic ball fiasco like in Sword and Shield, so just splattered them all over the ground. Not a graceful solution. Before too long, we run into Nemona again. Let me me see. So far you've caught... Go! Whoa, this is a girl. I know I've only caught one, but I don't like pork and the rat-paralyzed critter bazinga. Heading over to the cliffside to see what actually made that noise. We see that it was indeed a palm tree. No, obviously it was this little fella over here, clearly in a lot of danger, what with the hound down menacingly staring at him. He retaliates to the staring with an incredible roar. A roar so beefy it rocks the very foundation we're standing on. And in what I can only describe as the world's cheapest falling animation, as in, there isn't one, Mr. Soderbergh lands safely, thanks to the good old physics-defying Rotom phone. Not only would their arms break off upon stopping like that, but they stop falling before the Rotom phone's even pulled out. Also, Rotom can carry a human's weight? Not only that, but stop a person falling, meaning it can carry the extra weight of the momentum with no problem whatsoever? Why bother using a taxi service in this game? Would just tape your phone to your back and fly across the region. Anyway, the game wants me to give the mysterious Pokemon my sandwich, and... that's absolutely fine with me. And while everybody knows sandwiches heal life-threatening injuries, not everybody knows why the game freezes every time the camera cuts to the next shot. Then again, I'll take this over the Shadowmancy shenanigans that happen when the game doesn't freeze. Brother must be a Persona 3 fan. Suddenly, the mysterious Pokemon shines with a bright light and uses the power of the 7 Chaos Sandwiches to turn into its super form, promptly walking into the cave cut into the cliff. Don't look at me like that. You're the one without the stable existence here. So we head inside the inlet grotto. Lights must be motion activated. There you are, Mr. Soderbergh! You okay? You're not hurt, right? I'm managing. We continue onwards through the cave, encountering a few wild Pokemon along the way. Nothing you haven't seen before unless you're unfamiliar with Diglett. The game really doesn't want you opening your menu here. Pressing Y doesn't do anything, unless you count your player character stuttering around, which is something, I guess, but it's not all that useful, I'm afraid. What I'd like to know is what happens if you lose all your Pokemon in this section. Do you just respawn at the beach? Where do you go? What happens? Do you have to jump? Do you go back to your house and then have to jump down the cliff again? Like, what's the deal with that one? I messed around a little bit in how you can send your Pokemon out into the overworld at will. You can either send it running forward to auto battle, we'll touch on that later, or you can just throw the Pokeballs in to just let it hang out. Soon enough, me and the big dino guy make it to the end of the cave. What's behind me? Gosh, he walks up so politely. This is not the strut of a killer. I can already tell this is gonna go great. Houndoom used Crunch! The hell he did! The mysterious Pokemon saves us from the Houndoom and his pack of Houndlings, and Nimona gives it a round of applause. What is she, clapping with her ass cheeks too? After that, the mysterious Pokemon runs out of rings, reverting back to the form we saw earlier, the weak one, the stupid one. Then Nimona gives us Swift. Wait, TM's a one-time use again? After all this time, you're gonna tell me CDs can't be used more than once? Oh, you see, actually, it has to do with the crafting system. Shut up. Just head for the lighthouse. That'll be a good spot to relax. Well, alrighty then. Yep. You guys coming? No? Change your mind? Oh. Well, I guess I'll just go by myself then. Oh, hello! Here at the lighthouse we meet Arven, son to the professor of this region, Sada, who quite honestly is one of the best characters in the game. Not Sada, although she is one of the hottest ones, but Arven. I know this is Pokemon, so that's not saying all that much, but I really did enjoy his little story. Oddly enough, he knows our lizard friend. A little too well, actually. How very mysterious. He also tells us to shit off. Anyway, he battles us because this is a Pokemon game, and in Pokemon games you battle Peters. Critter Bazinga blasts through Arven Squovit quite easily because it's only level 5, and that's that. Jesus, man, it's like a 10-second loading screen to load in the area we're currently standing in. Arven gives us Koraidon's Pokeball. Its name is Koraidon, by the way, which is stupid as heck. It doesn't look anything like Rhydon. As for Koraidon's design, I really like it. It's honestly a fantastic design. It suits the story. It looks really cool. I don't know why the throat sack inflates when it runs. I feel like that'd just get in the way, but I understand they were trying to make it look like a bike. That's kind of the gimmick here, so whatever. Speaking of gimmicks, I suppose I should mention the other box legendary from the gimmick of, you know, trying to make as much money as possible. Miraidon is a big metal penis, and honestly, it doesn't work so well in the story. I mean, what the hell kind of sandwich does a robot eat? I mean, what's on it? Nuts and bolts? What's my mom trying to do? Poison me? Gasoline sandwich? It's kind of neat how the future-styled legendary actually does turn into a motorbike instead of just, you know, looking like a weird one. But it does kind of feel like an afterthought. You know, they made Scarlet, and then they were like, oh shit, we gotta make 2 versions. penis. Nimona forces me to climb the lighthouse and shows us the gorgeous view from the top. Just stunning.
Isn't it awesome when you can see from up here? Mountains, forests, grasslands, beautiful nature stuff as far as the eye can see.
Woo! Yeah, baby. Did they not play test the game? Did the poor QA testers get, what, 5 minutes? There's a huge gap in the land over there. This is one of the first scenes in the game. I was just going to point out how the game looks like ours. I mean, especially the trees. Oh, there's another bit of decapitated land down there. This is not the quality anybody should expect from, again, the richest multimedia franchise in the world. They kind of seriously looked at this and being like, oh yeah, this'll wow the players. It's sad. It's embarrassing. I've seen PS2 games with better environmental design.
And you know what's waiting for you all over these natural spaces?
Girl, I'd call these anything but natural.
Tons of Pokemon! And that's it. Just Pokemon. Then a few items.
I know I probably shouldn't complain about this sort of thing because the hardcore fans will get in my tuckers about like, how dare you complain about finding Pokemon in a Pokemon game, the nerve. But if that's all I'm finding out there, it gets a little samey, you gotta admit. Like, imagine if in Breath of the Wild all you found were, I don't know, weapons? Obviously, it's not a fair comparison. Breath of the Wild had much less money to work with than the Pokemon Company. If anything, I should be singing Zelda's praises a heck of a lot more, but what are you gonna do? I gotta keep it fair. I feel like the point of making an open world is to add like little secrets and surprises all over the map to keep things interesting. Zelda had camps, treasure, Korok puzzles, mini-bosses, trials, secret areas. Pokemon has trainers, items, Pokemon, sometimes a Gimmighoul. There's often no point in exploring more than you need to. On a more positive note though, and a complete shift in what we're talking about, a little quality of life change they've added is now you can press the Y button to auto-switch a Pokemon to the first slot of your party.
Now put the sit option back in the game.
Ah, you know how it is with Gamefreak. 1 step forward, 2,000 steps back. Let's take a step back of our own, shall we, and find out exactly what's coming up next time on RadicalSoda's Pokemon Scarlet and Violet review. Will the fans in the comments defend the multi-billion-dollar company's trash heap until their last dying breath? Will RadicalSoda mention Sonic Forces? You know he wants to. And will progress start speeding up at all? It's been half an hour and we're still at the lighthouse?